Going guys, Choxie here. So today we're going to be going over the spite line for Necromacer, and I'm sorry I didn't get this out yesterday. I was a little busy and had a lot of things to take care of, so I'm sorry for that. Also, I'm going to be trying out a new layout here, so shoutouts to Into the Mist and Dolphy for the sites and for the uploads and whatnot. But I'm gonna be going straight into the builder here because it's way easier and it's easier to compare side by side what they changed between the first time we got these things and the second time, or the finalized versions of these traits. So like I said, today we're gonna go over the spite line. I think this is gonna be just doing the spite line today, just because that a lot of things in the spite line got really spiced up and they're really exciting. So today will be spite, tomorrow will be curses and death magic, and then the next day will be blood magic and soul reaping. So I'll kind of squeeze these things into 3 days, so I can get those out to you guys before the patch comes out, to get you guys prepared for it. So today we got the spite line. We're gonna start off with our first minor trait, Reaper's Might. This trait is now our minor trait, so you get this automatically no matter what. As you can see here, Reaper's Might used to be an adept trait, so now you get it automatically. You get 1 stack of might for 15 seconds. It's gonna be really sweet actually. Considering that when you're using like maybe a Reaper, you keep slicing things for 1 stack of might, so you can build might quite consistently. Pretty awesome actually. The duration never got changed. It might be really crazy with strength runes or something, but you get free might stacking now, which will kind of help your DPS out in the long run, especially when you're stuck in Death Shroud. Not only your Life Blast, but your Reaper Shroud will also be doing might stacking as well. Alright guys, so next up is Spiteful Talisman. This trait reduces focus skill recharges by 20%, which might be really neat with our new 1200 range focus skills. Now people might be using them more, because the focus skills were pretty long cooldowns, or at least like 20 seconds I believe. But it also increases damage to foes with no boons by 5%. So this kind of encourages you to be ripping those boons off from your opponent with things like Spinal Shivers and all your other corruptions, and you get rewarded by having more damage on them. So this didn't get changed. It's still in the adept line. It's still the same. Numbers are the same. So there's that. I think it might be pretty cool if you're probably doing PvE, since some mobs don't even have boons on them, period. So you get a free 5% damage increase. So that might be pretty sweet. Overall, it's an adept trait, so not too much exciting here. Alright, so next up is Spiteful Renewal. This trait used to be the minor, now it's an adept. It swapped it out with Reaper's Might, as we just talked about a little bit earlier. So they kind of swapped places. But now, of course, the trait being it, striking a foe below 25% health consumes the condition from you and heals you when the condition is removed. So basically, they kind of changed it around a little bit. When with the warding back then, it meant that if you hit the foe below 25% health, you would you would remove a condition and heal. And I guess this time around it means if you consume a condition, then you get the heal. So let's say like you're fighting someone, you had no conditions on you, but you still hit them, you would get the heal. So that seems pretty OP. I guess they balance it out like this. Also, there's no mention about the more healing when you hit a mob or a back then, if you hit a player, you get more healing. If you hit a mob, you get less healing. But there's no mention of that here. Maybe that's why they kind of swapped that out and made it it's something you have to choose between. So who knows if they kept that there? We don't know. But either way, it's a really nice trait. I think it's gonna be really sweet. This kind of plays into the whole line, which I realized that it's kind of like they kind of pieced together like these kind of executioner kind of traits. Considering that when you get your opponent low, you're really pressuring them, and you're really either gaining something or you're doing something more on top of what you're already doing. So it's going to be really neat to see how this plays out with the other traits that I'm going to be talking about in a little bit. Really nice trait though. I really like this trait. Alright, so next up is Bitter Chill. This will definitely be playing into the Reaper line. I don't see most Reapers, they're probably going to be taking Spite anyways. But inflicting Chill on a foe also inflicts 3 stacks of vulnerability for 8 seconds. Before the change, it used to be 5 stacks, but that seemed pretty OP. That's 5%. That's 10% crit and 5% more damage. It's overall they had to adjust a little bit, so it's now 3 stacks. But so this mainly will be used for a Reaper line, definitely. I mean, you could possibly use it if you're using focus for Spinal Shivers or something like that. But this also just helps you overall increase your DPS. But I really see this only being with the Reaper line with all that chill. Alright guys, so next up is our next minor trait. Oh no, yes, that's our Death's Embrace there. So rip down Saint Necro. I mean, you still do 25% more damage. It's still considerable, but then again, it is a nerf. So you do 25% damage while down, and striking foes below 33% health inflicts 1 stack of vulnerability for 5 seconds. So again, this plays into the whole executioner kind of thing. When your opponent is low, now you're inflicting vulnerability per hit. And total cooldown, I'm not too sure, but you get, you know, getting that vuln on them while they're low, so you can kind of get on them and get the like if you're running Reaper, you can get the crit on vuln and start getting more crits on them as well. It did get adjusted a little bit. The vulnerability said 5 stacks back then, but that was way too much. So I guess it's 1 stack now. It could have been 5 stacks back then with the pretty high internal cooldown, or now it could be 1 stack for low internal cooldown, maybe like 1 or 2 seconds. Well, but we don't know, so we have to wait till the patch hits. But it's a free trait, it's free, so I like it. All right, next up is Chill of Death, one of the most used spite line traits for the masters, just because that spinal shivers can hit for a lot, especially when they have a lot of boons on them. It can really save your butt too at times. But when you get a foe below 50% health, again more executioner, you rip 3 boons, up to 3 boons, and you do damage according to how much boons you rip. So the more boons, the more damage, and it also chills the opponent. But now they added the little thing where this trait now benefits from the recharge bonus of spiteful talisman. So if you use spiteful talisman, actually right over here you can see spinal shivers. Give me 1 second here. I should have done this earlier. I'm so sorry, guys. Where's my focus? There we go. I don't care what stat it is. Show me the money. Oh, I have to swap weapons. There we go. Alright, so as you can see here, spinal shivers is 20 seconds with the with the trait, the talisman trait. Now it's 16 seconds. So 16-second boon conversion with damage and chill might be pretty sweet. Excuse me. But I just wanted to mention that now it added the bonus recharge from spiteful talisman. So I still see this trait being one of the more common used ones in any kind of power build. Alright guys, so next up is rending shroud. While in shroud, apply 3 stacks of vulnerability for 10 seconds to foes around you. So this used to be Death Shiver, and Death Shiver used to be down in the Death Magic line. Now it came up to Spite line, and back then they used to, I mean, before pre-changes, it used to be 6 stacks every 3 seconds, but that was pretty high. So 3 stacks again. I mean, this is basically back to what it was. They just changed the name. So just to kind of adjust for the new vulnerability changes and the crits and the chills and stuff like that, they kind of just made it back to normal. It's a decent trait. It might be cool in like a group, especially when you're applying that constant vuln to opponents, and vulnerability now increases Conti damage. So it might be nice to be sitting there. You'll get around like 9 stacks max because it's only 10 seconds that it lasts unless you run the Conti duration. It might be a nice trait. Maybe like in a dungeon too, if you're like in a mob with things, you can constantly apply vulnerability to things around you every so often. So it's a nice trait, pretty niche, but I still think Chill of Death is really cool. Alright, so next up, guys, it's gonna be Unholy Fervor. This used to be axe training. Well, now they call it Unholy Fervor because they're gonna make it sound cool. But reduces recharge of axe skills by 20% and deal 10% damage to vulnerable foes. So before it used to be they had that little recharge reduce thing per hit kind of thing, but they're like, that's kind of weird. I guess it didn't work out for them. I thought it was really neat. I wanted to see how they would play it out, but they just said, let's just do a flat cooldown. So now it's 20% flat cooldown, and it used to be 10% damage to crippled foes. Now it's 10% damage to vulnerable foes, just because of all the things in the spite line inflicting vuln. So I think it's more viable, considering that when you do your auto attack, you get vuln anyways, and your only cripple is your Axe 3, which is the Unholy Feast. So it might be cool for Axe users, but I still find Axe kind of underpowering. It's underwhelming. I think the range needs to be increased a little more. That's just me, but not a lot of people use Axe right now. But maybe with these changes with vulnerability and chill, Axe might be a viable weapon. Maybe for like a Reaper who needs some kind of ranged weapon, so we'll see how that works out. Alright guys, so next up is Siphon Power. Striking a foe below 50% health grants 2 stacks of might for 10 seconds. Well, that's a lot of might. That's up to 20 stacks of might. Maybe if you're in Strength Runes, you can probably hit max by then. But on 1 second internal cooldown. So every second you can get 2 stacks of might. But one thing I'm interested in is because it says striking a foe below 50% health. You can read that two ways. You can read it as in striking the foe whose HP is 50%, or striking a foe when your HP is below 50%. But from what I can conclude is that the little pictures here with the old traits, the siphon power shows your HP pool or your 50% threshold, so you know when you're gonna proc it. Whereas the other traits that have like a thresholdy kind of thing doesn't show your HP. It just shows 25% health threshold, 33% health threshold. So from what I see from the pictures, siphoned power is your HP pool, and those other traits are their HP pool. Don't take my word for it. It could just be that Ainit didn't, type in the rest of the info, or didn't put the code in to code your HP in there. But as from what I see, if anything, if they were going to change it, I would think it'll be your HP overall. If your HP was at that threshold, you would proc those traits. So it might go either way. So my whole things about executioner things might be viable, but it could go the other way as well. So if you're in a pressure situation, you get these bonuses. But I do like this trait. It's really nice. Let's say you are 50% health or lower, so you can pretty much, let's say you're playing Necro and you're like super low, pop that shroud, start shooting life blast. You can get 3 stacks of might each life blast because of Reaper's might, and as long as your HP pool is below 50%, you're gonna proc this trait. So that's gonna be pretty neat. I'm gonna see how this plays out, especially on a Reaper build. That'll be pretty sweet. All right, but nice Grandmaster minded trait for sure. Technically it's still the same from before. Alright guys, so next up is Signets of Suffering. Reduces recharge of Signet skills by 20%. Signets grant 3 stacks of might per 15 seconds on cast, and convert up to 2 boons on affected foes to conditions. Wow, Signets look very, very tempting to be taken with this trait, honestly. Like, I didn't expect them to throw this much stuff into Signets now. My biggest example was Plague Signet. And Plague Signet, if you don't know, transfers, right now it transfers all condies to the target. Now it just transfers 5, and it used to be 60-second cooldown. Now it's a 30-second cooldown. Look at the other bonuses. You get 3 stacks of might, you get to convert 2 boons on the foe up to conditions, and it reduces the recharge by 20%. So on a 24-second cooldown, you can transfer up to 5 condies, get 3 stacks of might, and convert 2 boons. That is pretty tempting, especially with things like Signet of the Locust, perhaps. With Signet of the Locust, you can convert up to 2 boons to 5 foes around you, and you get healing for it, because if you didn't know, with the active on Signet of the Locust, it does damage in an AoE around you, and you get healing for each foe struck. And it's a 600 range now, it's pretty sweet. But I am really tempted to make a Signet Necro build, just because of these changes. It's going to be really tempting. Also, shout out to Tuman, or I think it was Tuman, who cleared up the Signet of Undeath change, which is they added a little streak of damage to Signet of Undeath to proc, I guess, to proc the little boon conversion thing. So Signet of Undeath could be pretty neat. Let's say if someone's getting stability stomped, you could already start casting Signet of Undeath, and it can get that stability ripped off right above your opponent. So I think it's going to be pretty cool, and I kind of am excited to make a Signet Necro now, definitely. So next we have Close to Death. There's not much to say about this. It's our original execution trait. It's a very bread and butter execution trait for a lot of classes, but this is, you just deal 20% more damage while the enemy is below 50%. So this is our pretty much bread and butter execution trait. Not much to say about it. It just does what it says it does. Alright, and last but not least, we have Spiteful Spirit. One of my favorite traits that came with the changes and everything, but it got better. As we read here, entering Shroud, cast the axe skill Unholy Feast. This trait benefits from the recharge bonus of Unholy Fervor. So if anyone didn't know, actually let me go up here and put an axe on. I should have done this earlier again. I'm so sorry, guys. Alright, as you can see here, Unholy Feast. You damage and cripple nearby foes, remove a boon and from each foe you strike. So basically you get a AoE cripple, you do damage, and now it converts the boon. Back then with the little changes here. Or is it spiteful spirit? Yeah, it just removed the boon. Now it converts the boon. Why is this exciting? Because you get extra Condi on them every 15 seconds, and you get for free when entering Death Shroud. Why do I like this more? Let's say, for example, there's a thief. You're fighting a thief, and they're just in stealth all day. If you can time this really correctly, if you can time this well, you can easily pop Death Shroud, and in a 600 area radius, if they're within that radius, you can convert things like, I think if they use Hidden Killer, which is you get Might and Stealth, you can easily convert that Might into weakness. So if they're gonna backstab you, you're just gonna laugh because it's gonna tickle. That's what I gotta say. So I'm really excited for this one because this really ties in well with things like it's gonna be Weakening Shroud, which is now a Grandmaster, but we'll talk about that later. I like it. I really like it. Damage, cripple, boon conversion on enter Death Shroud every 15 seconds. So I'm gonna be fiddling around with this for sure. I like it. Oh, and also retard that gets the benefit of unholy fervor, which reduces the cooldown. So now it's gonna be about a 12-second cooldown. So overall, I'm really excited for actually this trait the most. Alright, so my overall thoughts about the Spite line. I liked them a lot. Nothing got overly nothing really got nerfed, nothing really got changed. All we've seen were a lot of buffs and a lot of fun things now. Spiteful renewal being one of my favorite ones. Reaper's Might being now baseline with the Spite line. Spiteful Spirit, oh my god, I want to play with this a lot. Signets of Suffering, I want to play with this a lot too. Signet Necro is probably going to be somewhat of a thing. We'll see how that plays out. And overall, I do like the traits. Although one thing I don't agree with is that the Axe still needs some love. As a power line, maybe Axe needed something else, or maybe some adjustments to Axe. But that's just my 2 cents. But that's gonna be it for me today, guys. Spite line, really like it. We're gonna see. I'm probably gonna be using this in my Condi builds because a lot of things kind of cater to Condis as well. But yeah, I do enjoy the changes. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm gonna be going over the. Let's see here. We're gonna go over curses. And we're going to be going over Death Magic the next day. Alright guys, so peace out. I will see you guys later and have a good day.